Hello, people. Andrew here, talking about comics from a reader, collector, speculator, investor point of view, in that order of importance to myself. Today I'm talking about a series called The Crusades that was released by Vertigo Comics, DC's Vertigo Comics, in the year 2001. It had a single issue here called Urban Decree, which was a square bound, sort of prestige style book, and then it ran for 20 more issues after that. What's it about? It's set in San Francisco the year around 2000, 2001. There's a talk show host by the name of Anton Marks, and he's a provocateur. He likes to stir up the pot. He likes to invite controversy. He's very opinionated. He has no problem insulting anybody or taking on anybody, and he has been recently taking on the two mob bosses vying for control of San Francisco, Tony Catoni, and the other one known as the Pope. But this is now taking a little bit of a backseat because a new urban myth has sprung up in the streets of San Francisco. Apparently, at night, there is a medieval knight, man in full plate armor and riding a horse, going around killing criminals and rescuing innocents. The police are quiet about the whole event, and the eyewitness accounts usually come from either a homeless or a drunk, and they conflict. One says one thing, one says another, but there's no definitive proof that this knight even exists. And Anton Marks wants to know who or what is this knight. Let's uncover the myth and figure out what's going on. He has a fact checker, somebody who goes through it, obviously, and checks his facts by the name of Venus, and I got her last name here, Kostopoulos. She's of Greek origin, and she's also his somewhat girlfriend. I say somewhat girlfriend because Anton's more interested in just the sex part of it, whereas Venus is looking more for a relationship. The story actually focuses on Venus because at one point in time, early on in the Crusades here, she actually witnesses the knight in action and takes it upon herself to solve the mystery of the knight. And that's who we generally follow throughout this series. Now, there are other characters involved in there. Actually, there are many characters involved in this story, and they all have they have interesting things to say. Their stories have some interest to the main story. They don't all interconnect, but there's enough interconnection throughout the characters and who they do interconnect with that it does tie in all together. Let's go on to the artwork first before I go further. Okay, so first of all, it was written by Steven Seagle. He did a lot of stuff with the Sandman Mystery Theater and some other books as well. But it's illustrated by Kelley Jones. I first heard of Kelley Jones or saw Kelley Jones' work when I saw it in Batman. It had a slightly exaggerated perspective of Batman. You know, the very long ears, the almost animated type of cape. There was a sense of Mike Ploog about his line work as well, and I see that still here in the Crusades. As a matter of fact, I see even greater exaggeration within the Crusades because Batman, you would have been a certain amount of restraint because it's set. People are expecting a certain thing from their characters. With the Crusades, the exaggeration of expression is more pronounced. The perspective, the change in characters and in the perspective, because sometimes we're looking at a perspective from this character's point of view and then from another, and they see things this way, which could be exaggerated, and another one may see it that way, which is a little bit more restraint. So there's a variation within there. I think that the illustrations of the horrific aspects are pretty darn horrific, and the book itself has been classified amongst, I don't know around who, but I've seen it online in various when people are talking about this as far as a trade paperback or something and classifying it somewhat as a horror, but it's not a horror. It's a thriller mystery adventure with horrific elements, and Kelley Jones does depict horrific elements quite horrifying. But his artwork in this, for me, elevates the story. Really complements what's being done here. It's a good, solid story. It is. It's a good, solid story. It's not about superheroes. It is about this sort of this night vigilante and the mystery. The mystery is a good mystery. It's not like so complex, and it's not with Scooby Doo endings or things like that. Things lead from one to another, and they make sense. And you will figure out things before they're totally revealed, but that's okay because part of this is going along with Venus's journey. She's sort of the guide through it, and we get all of the clues and the information about the night mostly through Venus as she proceeds along this line. Uh, so is it a good read? And absolutely, I really enjoyed this series a great deal. I've read it 2 or 3 times now, at least two, if not three. It's always something to be coming back to and reading. It's only 20 issues long, 21 if you include this first one here. It's an enjoyable read. I like visiting these characters again. I love the illustrations. I should also point out that the cover art is very different and dynamic, and I'll might as well go through some of that right now because there's this issue here, and then there's 12 issues done by 12 different artists, and they're all painted. And then it goes into some work by Aaron Weisenfeld, and I'm Weisenfeld. Um, and that stuff's good as well, but I really like the first 12 painted covers. And you get some significant names in this. This is Bill Sienkiewicz. He does the first issue here of a painted cover, and I will go through some of the others. So, is it worth a read? Yeah. Even if you were just to pick it up for a book or two, just to take a look at the interior artwork, that alone is worth going to the dollar bin and finding one of these books. But I really think it's worth a whole read from the first issue, Urban Decree, all the way through the 20 issues that make up the Crusades. It's a single story. Again, you could probably buy trade paperbacks. Actually, you can buy trade paperbacks or omnibuses that break it down into blocks. But ultimately, it's a single story. I don't see a room for a follow up or anything like that. And there wasn't one, right? Because it ran from 2001 to 2002, and that's well over 20 years ago. And it's not really something that people talk a great deal about. But I will say that I really enjoyed the series. I recommend the series. I liked it for the artwork, for the covers, and for the story. As far as for what's the collecting is all about, this is from a Croatian artist by the name of Daniel Zezel. I really like this, and if I could find some more of his work, I'd probably check it out too. So I like that kind of style of artwork. As far as the collecting is concerned, as I say, I mean, you'd buy it for the Vertigo, you'd buy it for the Crusades. There are some Kelley Jones. I mean, Kelley Jones is no doubt has a following. And as I say, some of these covers are worth noting, and notable artists there. And these are the reasons that you would, collect the Crusades. So this one here is John J. Muth. Again, I do like a lot of these first 12 covers, which were all different artists, all different paintings. So far as speculation and investment is concerned, well, really, there's not much here. I mean, at best, your speculation is going to be picking up a copy of Urban Decree, the first book here, because that's where everybody's introduced, and that's when the story starts off. But to what end? Unless it's converted into a film or a series, I think it would work as a 6-part series. I don't think it's going to get any kind of recognition. I do think some of these covers. This is the one by Richard Corbin, the last one that I need. And as I say, there are probably Richard Corbin collectors, so you could pick up one of these sort of as a spec for Richard Corbin collectors. But the book itself, all of these books are dollar books, including Urban Decree. So, as far as the investment or the speculation is concerned, no. Pick up a copy to see the interior artwork and to read a chapter of it or a chapter or two to see if if it's something that you look like you'd be interested in. I find it very interesting, and as I said, I've read it multiple times, and I'll read it again because I enjoy this particular story. I don't see I don't see anywhere that it's going. I don't see any as I said, any follow up or sequel, and there doesn't need to be. Sometimes a story is just a story, right? You tell the one story, and then you're done. It's over and done with. And that's the case here with the Crusades. So I'm just going through some of these covers. This is the last of the painted covers by 12 different artists, and as I say, it's a great collection. And then we started going into this here, where we talk about it. The story, as I say, the story was good. There was times as you'd understand the mystery, you'd get what's going on. But there are some twists and turns, unexpected twists and turns here and there. Some different character developments that are unexpected character developments. It is, well, it's designed for a mature reader. It's, because it talks about things that for a mature reader. There's, as I say, some of the artwork is fairly graphic, and it can be horrific to some. But as I said, I really like this series. I recommend this series. This series is all dollar book material. If I was going to pick up any as a spec, I would go for the hardcover, or I should say the cardboard cover, stock cover of Urban Decree, and I might pick up issue 1 for Bill Sienkiewicz artwork, and issue number 8 for the Richard Corbin artwork. So this is the last issue. That's what I've got to say about the Crusades. Good read. Go out and find it. It's not going to cost you much, $20 to $30 for the whole thing. And as I say, great read. That's it. That's what I got to say about the Crusades. I hope you go out and pick it up and at least give it a shot when you see a copy or two in the dollar bin, just to say if you were passing it over and saying this looks stupid or whatever it was that you were thinking. Maybe I don't want to read about medieval knights, but this is not a story about a medieval knight back in the 11th century. It's about an 11th century knight in this century. All right, that's it. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Talk again soon.